I was thinking about you the other day. LeBron James is going on this scoring binge, and I said, this isn't a lost season for LeBron because he's never going to catch Michael, and he wants to stay as healthy as he can. He's had no major injuries, and there is value in having a big scoring year and being selfish this year for the first year in his career. I'm going to score some points. And he's never been that guy. And I think it's remarkable he's become that guy. And I'm like, to me, my takeaway is, hey, he's looking around the league. He's looking around the Lakers. I'm gonna score this year. I'm gonna add some points. That's my takeaway on what he's done. He knows the chemistry doesn't work. He can't trust AD. They're gonna blow this thing up probably in the offseason. And for the first time in his career, I'm gonna be a little selfish. That's my take.
What's remarkable about it though is that he can do this in year 19. The most points per game ever for a guy year 19 or later is Kareem with 14. So he's doubling it, more than doubling it, right? And the fact that I always believed, he said years and years ago, I could win the scoring title every year if I really wanted to. And I believed that then. I did not go into this year thinking, even if he wanted to, that he could still average 30 points per game. I thought he could still control games. I thought he could still be the guy that in a critical fourth quarter of a playoff series you would want over any other guy in the league. I thought maybe he could still get to that. But the fact that he's going to play this year more games than Durant and he's going to potentially win the scoring title, it's utterly remarkable. And I actually think your guy, Tom Brady, in a weird way, has caused people to appreciate what LeBron is doing this season a little less, because Brady, won a Super Bowl at 43, was a league MVP, leading candidate at age 44. So I think it's like, yeah, this is the era of old athletes dominating, but we've never seen anything close to this in the NBA. Nothing close to it previously.
Well, it's interesting if you really think of what the bigger picture on the Lakers to me is that in 9 seasons, they've had 7 losing seasons. If Ohio State football, Kentucky basketball, Yankee baseball in 9 years had 7 losing seasons, that's with LeBron and Kobe. You'd be like, oh, that's poor ownership. Nobody in Los Angeles, because they like Genie Bus, right? And the LA media is not as angry as Boston, Philly, New York. Not as provincial, perhaps, as a Dallas or a Chicago, but it's a pretty easy media.
Yeah.
Nobody will acknowledge this. It's poorly owned and poorly run. With LeBron James, the bubble
There's no question.
Has given you a false sense of achievement. This is a 9 years, 7 losing seasons. That's the Mariners. I grew up with that. Those are poor. And by the way, during that time, they've had, in 9 years, 4 head coaches and 112 players. That's Detroit. That's Orlando. That's Cleveland. People here just, this in the media, they like Anderson Cooper. Nobody will ever say, he's never won his time slot. The media plays favorites. They like Genie. It's poorly owned. It's poorly run.
And by the way, and I don't think that it has to be so the fact of the matter is that in every Lakers deep dive piece, the name Linda Rambis comes up about how she has undue influence on the franchise, has never had a real title. No one knows exactly what she does because she's Jeannie's best friend. And one of the, some of the people who cover the Lakers on a daily basis consider Jeannie a close friend, not just a source or whatever, consider her a friend. Of course, it's been poorly run. And there was so much of the leaking that I thought was just unbecoming. Like when they went after Rich and Clutch and they were like, they thought, there's a civil war between Clutch and between the Lakers front office, and Clutch wants to run the team. Well, listen, at some point, if the way you've run your franchise is the guy who the GM was the agent for your superstar, and then he literally got to run the team. Apologies if the agent for your current superstar thinks he might be able to have some say. Rob Pelinka was Kobe's agent. Now he runs the team. Like, so,
Right.
and by the way, and I know Magic, is bad on Twitter and people poke fun, but Magic saw that dysfunction. And Magic, even with LeBron there, said, I'm not dealing with it. I'm out of here, guys. And then they ended up getting AD and, and LeBron and AD have the magical season. And so it papers over a lot of it. But so much of the Lakers stuff has really bothered me because, yes, LeBron. So let me run this by you, Colin. And we probably should have started with this. And I thought of it. I was talking to my son about this, about why they went with Westbrook, like why that ultimately happened. And I think it was ultimately out of cowardice. And here's what I mean. The Lakers have shown you if they disagree with LeBron, they will not. They won't do what he wants. We know that because Ty Lue's not the coach.
Right.
You could have hired Ty Lue, and it's not like they were like, no, we're bringing in Eric Spoelstra. It was for Frank Vogel. They said no to Ty Lue, yes to Frank Vogel, despite what LeBron wanted. Okay, so they end up trading for Russell Westbrook. Did LeBron want them to? Obviously, yes. Do I suspect the Lakers front office wanted to? Yeah, because they love stars. And because if they really didn't want it, they wouldn't have done it. But here's the more, I guess, incendiary allegation. I think so if it was either trade those pieces for Buddy Hield and other stuff and have LeBron, probably let people know it's not the trade I would have made, or trade it for Russ. And everybody knows it's a trade LeBron wanted. I think one of the reasons they did it was because they had a built-in scapegoat. I'm not sure it'll work, but if it doesn't work, we'll make sure everybody knows LeBron made us do it. As opposed to the other way around, if we go with the courage of our convictions, go with something, if that doesn't work, LeBron's going to let everybody know it's not what he wanted. So I think it was a built-in excuse is one of the reasons they traded for Russ, is because they could lay it at LeBron's feet if they really thought it was going to be a disaster. And by the way, a lot of people did. You didn't think it would work. I was skeptical. LeBron is not great at this part of it. The seeing what talent will fit with him. He's never been great at that. But they didn't have the courage in their own convictions, and to then have it happen and then to leak to the media, Lakers front office believes, the LeBron and company made their bed. Now they have to lie in it. That's like terrible parenting, not like the way you run a front office. I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and they're a bit trapped because you're going to have to inherit bad contracts to get rid of Westbrook's contract.
Yeah.
I said this. I would have gotten rid of Anthony Davis before the season. I thought last year when he came in out of shape, in the year in which he was going to take the baton from LeBron, was an egregious affront to LeBron and the organization. And we never thought he was a great leader. We always knew he was brittle. But we never really thought he was sort of uninspired. When he came in out of shape last year, and he was, I thought, all right, let him play to the All-Star break, puff up his numbers, and move him. And I think LeBron was so pissed last year with that, he would have bought into that. It's too late now. You can't get half of what you could at the beginning of last year. Several more injuries. I'm not an AD guy. I've played the market forever. Buy low, sell high. I thought last year very early, if you were given an opportunity to replace me, or it was the moment of your career to take the baton and lead the network, and you came in unprepared, you came in unfocused.
Sure.
Well, that's all I would need to know from you. I'm out.
Yep.
Last year, at the beginning of the year, we all said LeBron needs to get down to 28 to 32 minutes, about 24 a game, be the number 2 guy. Run the offense 2 guy. Anthony Davis comes in out of shape.
And I'm not, I think some of that maybe had to do with the fact that his body's breaking down. I think you're being a little harsh. I think it's would have been fascinating to see it happen and fascinating to see what the return could have been. I have a different question about what the Lakers do next in this regard. What do you think the Blazers will let Dame? So I don't know if we can talk about this or not, but I think we can. Obviously Joe Buck just left our company.
Yeah.
Just left Fox. And what I read was that he had a year left on his contract, but Fox was like, hey, you've been an amazing employee for a quarter century. We're not going to hold you hostage. You want to go with Troy? We're gonna wish you well and thank you for it. So I thought about that, and I thought about Dame. And my question is this: if Dame says, "Okay, it's finally time to move on," would they let him pick his destination? And if Dame says, "Yeah, I do want to go to the Lakers," and they'll give you whatever draft picks they have left and Russ for the contracts, and you guys can buy out Russ and start over? Or do you think the Blazers would say, Dame, we love you, but we have to get a massive return from you, so it's gonna be, highest bidder? Or do you think they're gonna kind of what the Lions did with Stafford, right? They let Stafford kind of pick his spot. Now the Rams could give a lot, but they let him pick his spot. Do you think the Blazers will let Dame do that if he asks out?
I think if the Lakers had the assets Portland was interested in, they would. In the NFL, you do not want your quarterback. You don't want Russell Wilson in the NFC. But in the NBA, if you get the assets, your ammo versus my ammo. I've never felt it's as parochial as that. In the NFL, I mean, it's just real obvious. If we're getting rid of Carson Wentz, you'd rather send him to Washington.
No, but that's not what I'm asking. What I'm asking is, do you think the Blazers organization, out of loyalty to Dame,
No, I don't think they would.
would take an inferior offer because it's where he wants to go?
No, I don't think they would. I don't think it's a Laker thing, because I think they would move him to the Lakers. I don't know what the Lakers have.
Right. They would have the 2027 and 2029 draft picks is really all they would have. It's nothing.
I also think Dame's a smaller athlete and a declining asset. I wouldn't. There's not a lot. I like Dame, but you're seeing Steph Curry this year wear down. These are smaller players.
Steph had 8 points the other night.
Yeah,
Steph had 8 points the other night, and they won. The Jordan Poole kid, who you like, scored 30, and Clay had 30. His first great game in a few years. Since the injury, it was good for Clay. Steph's a weird one this year because people were like, do you remember right before he broke the 3-point record, he was like 14 threes away? And they were like, could he break it tonight? I'm like, 14 threes. And since then, he's had the worst. I mean, this is his worst shooting year since his first year of his career, I think. Like, he has not been great this year. It's weird to see because people are still talking about him like an MVP. I don't even know if he's first team All-NBA guard anymore. I think it's John Luka. Steph to me has not had nearly the year I think a lot of people think he's had, at least percentages wise.
Well, I think Golden State's interesting because they're going to play Jordan Poole a lot.
Yeah.
The rookie kid out of Arkansas.
They're going to play. Go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
Jonathan Kuminga is going to. They're going to put him on the floor in the playoffs. I don't think it's a championship team. I think Steph will, because of his ability to shoot and handle the ball and distribute, he will age gracefully. It won't be a Westbrook or a Cam Newton where it's just off the cliff. But I think it's very clear what they're doing. Wiggins was going to be a trade piece. Now they need his scoring. So Poole was they draft and develop very well in Golden State. We've got, between Draymond and Clay and Steph. So I think they're transitioning to their next Steph and Clay. Clay's not the same player. He's not. He's about 75%.
And he's not going to be. I don't think he's going to be. The Clay thing's sad because, it was just 2 brutal injuries and missing so much time. So let me then ask you this, because I have immense respect for Phoenix and what they've done.
Yeah.
And they obviously were the best team in the West, last year and then throughout the playoffs. I don't know if I believe Chris Paul, and we saw this injury, it's kind of a fluky one. I don't know if I think Chris Paul is going to be able to stay healthy for back-to-back, 30-game playoff runs. I just don't know that I think that's going to happen, or 20-some, I guess it'd be 20-some game playoff runs. So I don't think Golden State's making the finals. I really respect Phoenix. I think that the season might be too long after what they did last year. So now we're like, okay, Memphis is too young. I'm going to throw something out here. I think this might be Luka's 07 LeBron year, where it's way earlier than anyone thought. It's like, oh my God, he took him to the finals. It's like, but that guy with those teammates took him to the finals. I think we forget that Luka, so he's played 13 career playoff games. He's averaging in those 13 games 33, 9, and 8. And that was with all 13, Colin, coming against the Clippers. So every playoff game he's ever played in his life, Kawhi or Paul George has been guarding him for basically the entire time he's on the court. And he's 33, 9, and 8. I think that the West is pretty wide open with the Lakers being this bad, with the Clippers being hurt. We'll see, when Chris Paul comes back. I think the Mavs, I think we could wake up and say, holy shit, the Mavs are in the NBA Finals. And it's because Luka just averaged 35, 12, and 8 for 2 rounds.
Well, I think the bottom of the West and East are so weak that I think Phoenix will extinguish teams really quickly. To me, they're, I'm old enough to remember when every team looked like Phoenix. A big that liked to be a big.
Yeah.
A classic number 2 guard that could shoot threes, preferably mid-range. Wings who could defend, young, with a veteran wing Jay Crowder, and a distributor first point guard. They are a 1988 NBA team. They really are. And I think they've just built old school. I worry sometimes they're not great shooting the three. They really aren't. Sometimes Jay Crowder becomes really important for them. And I like him, but I wouldn't want to depend on him. But I think the bottom of both conferences is weak. I think they're going to fly through it, and then, listen, if Dallas was to meet them, it'd be a long, long series. And Dallas, I don't think, has the ability to sweep through rounds as easily. And so I think they'd be a tad more worn down. I think it's Phoenix's year. I don't, by the way, do you buy into this current? It happens every time. If I see something over and over, I'm going to believe it's true. I've seen Jayson Tatum, Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown. I've seen them in the playoffs.
Yeah.
They don't have the size. They don't match up with Philly or Milwaukee great situationally late in games.
Yep.
I've seen this. I don't buy Boston.
Bill
Simmons is like, this is our best team. It's been 10 years. And I watch them and I'm like, no, this is exactly what they've always been. Occasionally spectacular, but I don't feel like they would defend bigs as well. I think there's limitation. I mean, Jaylen Brown.
Colin, I don't think they're going to get out of round 1. People are like, oh, Nick, you're a hater. Okay, so I just, if the playoffs start today, here's my issue for Boston, and this is always the issue, and this is why the folks who are on my head saying I don't give Nikola Jokic enough credit, I would like to see one of them at least have the faith in him if he's the MVP back-to-back to say he can carry a team in a Western Conference that's not loaded, at least to the conference finals, if not the NBA finals this year. But nobody actually believes that. But so on the Celtics, what series are the Celtics going to have the best player on the court in? Not against Philly, obviously. Not against Milwaukee, obviously. I would argue in the playoffs, I'd rather have Jimmy Butler than Jayson Tatum. I think Jimmy Butler is more proven, but people could argue with me on it. Fine. Obviously not against
Brooklyn,
but they're not going to face Brooklyn in round 1 because Brooklyn's the 8 seed or whatever. Against Chicago, Tatum's better than DeRozan. So I think it's winning playoff series if you don't have a loaded roster is really hard if you don't have the best guy on the court. And I just like Boston, and that's why everyone's like, oh, Jayson Tatum's a superstar. No, Jayson Tatum's like the 18th best player in the league, which is awesome, but never good enough. If your best guy is not a top guy, you're drawing dead in this league. Always. Okay, so that's what we've always known.
Give me 17 players better than Jayson Tatum right now.
All right. I will. I'm going to. Okay. LeBron, Giannis, Durant. Agreed?
Yep.
Luka, Jokic, Embiid. Steph, Kawhi, Anthony Davis, Dame. We're at 10. James Harden is 11. And now is here where it gets trickier. Would you rather have, I think Donovan Mitchell, I think Devin Booker have shown where they are. I think Ja is better than him. Now we're at 14. Chris Paul, I haven't mentioned. Now we're at 15. The other guys that I had on there that I don't want to leave off, Paul George puts us at 16. Jimmy Butler puts us at 17. And Jayson Tatum's 18.
Well, I think Tatum falls into the sort of Donovan Mitchell, Devin Booker, Jayson Tatum that you can make arguments for all of them.
And Trae Young deserves to be in there too. And yep, I agree.
Yeah, he's in that somewhere between 11 and 16. If Celtic fans going to say 11, I'm good with it. I could make an argument it's 15, 16. I think Donovan Mitchell's underrated. I've always felt. Now, I mean, I think he plays on the deep. He was known as a defensive stopper before an offensive star. He has leadership qualities. He's been good in big playoff games. He's been good late. He can shoot a three. He can drive. He's
monster in the playoffs. He's got a bunch of 50-point playoff games. That's the other thing. Like, of those young guys, like Tatum's been to 2 conference finals. Yes. Well, Trey just carried a team to the conference finals, his first time in the playoffs. Devin Booker just went to the actual finals, not conference finals. And Ja, we'll see this year. I think Ja's better than all of them. I think after Luka, Ja's the best young guy. Giannis isn't a young guy anymore, in my opinion. He's right. Like in the healthy prime of his career. No, I think Tatum, but this is the thing, people always do, like, oh, Tatum's he's gonna win scoring titles. He's gonna be an MVP. They only award one of those a year, guys. 1 scoring title, 1 MVP. They're hard to win. Those things are hard to win. And so I just know, I think the Celtics would be, if they get Chicago, then I think they can win a round. If they get Miami, Philly, or Milwaukee, they're drawn dead, in my opinion, to win a round. And if they get Chicago, maybe they can win a round. They'll be out in round 2. They're not. Tell your buddy Bill Simmons is shockingly drunk on the Celtics Kool-Aid again. Again.